boop, 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 like hold music into the mic.
Don't have any on hand, unfortunately.
No, I can
But you're
just,
welcome,
yeah.
if you want to just kind of boop boop into the mic and share
Real icebreaker. When it turns on for real,
now, so.
great. I can warm up.
But we are recording.
Oh.
just so you're fully informed of what you're about to engage in.
Be the honest picture of who it is you are having talk about composts. No, that is just, I ran the site solo for about a year, and there was a lot of just like making my own background music just to fill some time sometimes. Like I'd be scooching along rolling piles for like 8 hours and just be like making up songs about what I was doing just because no one else was there.
That's when the weirdness comes out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back to the COVID situation.
I went from COVID into, briefly worked in a bakery, but mostly just straight from alone to alone, but now with heavy equipment.
There you go.
It's great.
Amy's not on the slides. It's okay.
I have them on Google. It's Google Slides.
Okay.
Yeah, so like if there's an account, I can just, or internet, I can just pull them up. Because they're what I was like. She put together like I actually have those in an email too. She emailed me her introduction ones.
Okay.
So.
I do have a laptop that I could go get. Would be helpful.
Oh, that sounds like Amy.
It's Amy. I'm sorry. It's okay.
Yeah.
The last piece of pizza just killed me.
Nice.
Killed my timeline.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Sean? Yeah. I know. I don't know what he's doing.
Good.
Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Oh, okay. So you have a flash drive. Let me grab a computer.
Perfect. That's the way it's always been before. So I assume you'll just take it. Okay. Okay. I got this one.
Aaron was hyper-vigilant.
I just stop it. I just fine. I mean, what if she was? I'm used to like having to present like
No, I know. I'm just.
to large audiences, so I can. Well, it's gonna be a large audience tonight. Hopefully online. Hopefully online. I mean, any good audience. Yeah.
If not, it's recorded, and at some point, someone will see it.
This is true.
Well, so
Yeah.
that's the thing with a lot of the other rooms that we had done.
Yeah, it's usually.
I'm sure the electric one has like 150.
Yeah, a lot of these. Hi.
Is this the ESOL training or did that end?
It may have ended, or it might be in another location, but it's not here.
Compost.
The last meeting for the ESOL trainers?
Not here. Check with the main desk. That's all we can do. I know, right? We don't have time.
What is that?
Main desk.
What's on the Oh, Laura? Yeah, okay, Laura. Just said it really quickly when I walked in. It's when I hear a name, if my brain doesn't register right away, it's just gone. It's just gone forever.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
like the older I get,
Yeah.
I have no memory. Short term, I don't know where it all goes. So.
Yeah.
If I don't write stuff down,
Yeah.
gone.
Are you, Katie?
I am good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? If I have to introduce you, did you put your name on the slides?
No,
Enjoy your time.
but I can introduce myself.
Good luck with that.
What's your? I'll just introduce you as Katie from Black Earth Compost.
Yeah, I can do it too. Or
Or I
like
can have your
double.
last name. I have those intro slides. Did you get a
Oh,
chance to see
I
that?
saw them like literally on my drive thru.
Yeah, here we go.
But we had another tree come down, so now the goats have like a bridge out of their enclosure. Like
Goats.
I've so
That's my dream come true.
I manage my old farm actually now, and they're in an enclosure to clean around a tree that just came down.
Sorry, I assume.
And now in that storm last night, another tree fell on top of that one, so it's like literally dead tree on top of dead tree.
No, that's
But they have just a bridge like right out, and they're all using it. They're delighted.
Framingham?
I'm in Millis.
Okay.
Get you to move your phone.
Yes,
Let me not
sorry.
Swish it.
No, you're good.
I'll be interested to see what kinds of winds we get this weekend with the hurricane. They'll keep shifting.
It's moving
So
further and
it's
further.
getting-
Yeah, like it's staying off the coast, which is preferred. Got enough dead trees to clean up.
I'm surprised nothing on my property has come down.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't probably just jinx myself. Anyways, hopefully.
It's just how saturated the ground is being. Everything I've had come down is already dead, so it's just been root balls lifting out.
We ready
So.
for this?
Just
Are
waiting
you
for it to
ready
wake up.
to rumble?
Hi, it's Amy, right? Yeah, I'm Amy.
Nice to meet you.
you.
Theoretically.
Eve. I got your email on my.
I used to always try and braid my hair like that, and I could never get it to work. It would like, I couldn't make it show up
Oh, okay.
at the base.
I know.
It's like,
I
how
have
do
to
you?
take teeny tiny little
Is that
pieces
it? Just
at
start
first,
tiny?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Amy, I think this should be good, but take a look.
There was like a whole section on.
You just did the slides that you
Yeah.
shared with me,
Yes,
right?
that's
Okay, no changes. Okay.
There, but like everybody was so excited that you.
I kind of just made them so that if people had questions, they were jumping off point.
I promise.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Cool. And then Amy, I'll just give a brief intro, turn it over to you, and you can kind of take it the rest of the time, and I'll be in the booth. Does that sound okay? That sounds perfect. Is there anyone to field questions from online audience? Yes, that would be me. I'll just grab the mic and kind of stand in the doorway.
And so I've been texting with Janet.
Okay.
And she was like, Eve's my best friend.
She was something.
She's a rocket.
Yeah, she has a lot of energy.
Yeah. When I talked to her on Tuesday, she was like, Erin, we're going to get together.
Will the presentation be posted as well?
And I was like, Paige,
So,
In terms of note taking, if it's on the slide, do I need to take notes of it or will that get?
My slides are just like talking points. So like I set them up to be like kind of more just like
presentation view. Why am I being an
start
idiot?
of the conversation. So definitely take notes if you
Under
want to.
slideshow?
They are recording it though, all the audio. So
Oh, you're doing a video, right?
yes, yeah. So all of that you'll be able to watch it again.
Yes,
exactly.
it is going to be recorded on YouTube.
Yeah, so you can check back.
Haven't posted it before, but you're welcome to watch it on YouTube and pause and make whatever notes you want and review the information. She does a brief introduction, and I do a brief introduction. Yeah,
We go down the chain.
yeah,
The chain.
get on the chain. So, great. So it's about that time. If y'all are ready, I'm ready.
I'm not fidgeting.
I've had a busy day.
Once we get going, I'll be in normal presentation mode.
Use about this much.
Sweet.
It doesn't stop, you know, here. But
She said to stay at the mic, so
The mic is.
that's fine. For people to ask questions?
Yes, I'm just going to give a brief intro, and then we'll have the mic ready for questions, too. All right, welcome, everyone. Welcome here in the room and at home. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Lara Villalmat, she and hers. I am the head of Outreach and Community Experience here at the Framingham Public Library. We are so thrilled to welcome you back to the next session of our sustainability series in partnership with the Framingham Sustainability Committee. Tonight's topic is going to be about composting. And before I turn it over to Amy Palka, the Vice Chair of Framingham Sustainability Committee, I do want to ask, for those of you in the room, I want to point out our coffee and tea in the back if you'd like to take advantage of that. For those of you at home, we hope you join us next time in person so you too can have some coffee and tea. We've also got our evaluation forms in the back. We'd love to hear from you what you thought about tonight's event. If you have any ideas for future topics or events you'd like to hear about, and if you'd like to join our mailing list, of course, we are the library. The only thing that we'll ever send you is more information about cool free library programs. I'll also ask these folks in the room to go ahead and take this opportunity to silence your cell phones. Ring alarms, anything like that, go ahead and turn those off for me. Tonight's event is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube for watching later or reviewing. Somebody asked a question about, for note-taking, whether or not we'll be posting the slides. We won't be posting the slides, but we will be posting the video, so please stop by the Framingham Library YouTube page. You can stop, start, pause, and make all the notes you want in not real time. And with that, I would like to welcome Amy Palka, Vice Chair of the Framingham Sustainability Committee.
Thank you, Laura. So tonight we're talking about composting, the next frontier. Before we dive into that really interesting subject, a little background. So this is a partnership between the Framingham Public Library and the Framingham Sustainability Committee. This is the series we have for this fall. Tonight we're on composting. Thursday, October 12th is the Climate Action Plan, and Thursday, December 14th will be Bicycling in Framingham. This information is available on the library website. Here are the lovely members of our Sustainability Committee so that you know who we are. We are real people, and we've been established by an ordinance from the City Council, and we've been meeting since 2021. Our job is to provide advice to the mayor and sustainability coordinator and to really do public outreach and engagement, to serve as a resource. And coming up this year, our annual recommendations on municipal programs and policies will be released by October 1st. Okay, so setting the stage a little. Why are we talking about food waste today? So the Framingham Department of Public Works collects about 65 tons of trash per day. Of that, it's estimated that 26 to 30% of that amount is compostable. It's organic material. So that's 45,000 pounds of compostable material per day that are either going into a landfill or to an incinerator. In a landfill, this organic material breaks down and generates methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas. In incinerators, because the material is so wet, 70% water, it takes a lot of energy just to burn it. That produces a lot of air pollution. And in fact, there's a state waste ban for food waste for facilities generating more than half a ton per week. So that's your large dining halls, etc. Just quickly about residential curbside composting. Currently in Framingham, there are over 300 residents subscribed to one provider. I believe there are several vendors serving Framingham, but Black Earth Compost is one of those vendors. They have a site located right here in Framingham at Eastleigh Farms. So we've invited them here to speak tonight, and I'll introduce Katie in a minute, to speak about curbside composting for both residents and larger if people have questions for businesses, etc. Currently, there are over 30 municipalities that support in some way organics composting or curbside composting, either curbside or some of them have a drop-off location. And due to public interest, Mayor Sisitsky just announced last week a composting advisory committee will be formed to explore options for how the city might be able to support composting, if it's going to work here or not. If you're interested in that, the mayor is interested in hearing from people who would like to be on that committee. So just email mayor@framinghammat.gov. And with that, I would like to introduce you to our speaker tonight, Katie from Black Earth Compost.
I took advantage of the coffee. Highly recommend. It's still too hot, but yeah. My name is Katie Riley. I am the foreman and do everything at our Framingham composting site. Just before we get started, does anybody have initial questions?
Do you rent from Eastleigh? Or?
We do, yep. I'm on a 4-acre lot at the back, like the way back end of Eastleigh. Like you just keep driving, and when the road dead ends, it's us.
So
Can we
you're
repeat the
for-profit.
question for the
Oh,
online
yes.
people?
Sorry, he asked if I rent from Eastleigh, and I do. So, yeah.
So you're a for-profit organization?
Yes.
You're not a not-for-profit?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And we are, he was asking if we are a nonprofit. We are not a nonprofit. We're for-profit, regular company. We do a lot of community work to kind of continue to be a part of the community, but we are a regular business. You had a question?
It was quickly mentioned that there's some places where you can do drop-off. Is that a location that people can drop off to?
Asking if, or she was saying that there's some places you can drop off compost, and asking if our site is one. Right now, we don't have that set up. Our Groton site and our Manchester by the Sea are both located at DPWs, or at transfer stations. So there are sites that do provide it. I know that there's some rumblings within Framingham to make it something like we're working towards with Framingham directly. Framingham's doing that more than we are. It's whoever they decide to go with, but if y'all live in Framingham, that's great for you. So, yeah, this is one of our trucks. You'll see these guys bumping around most of Eastern Mass and further into moving more south Rhode Island area. I think in that one in particular, there's actually like a bag of textiles in the front seat. We do not just compost collection, but we're expanding into other recyclables and things like that. So like each site has textile bins. So if you want to clean out your closet, we actually pick up we work with Bay State Textiles, so it's not just like getting shredded. They also sort through and do like highest and best use. We do electronics recycling as well, and we're working on doing more things to divert waste besides just our compost. Not that organic waste is just, but yes.
The electronics recycling and the textiles, is that at a cost to the resident?
She's asking if the electronics and textiles is at a cost. The way that we manage the textiles is and it's the same as also how we do yard waste. You basically buy like a roll of stickers that say Black Earth Compost, and you put them on whatever bag and then we pick it up. I think it's right now $7 a sticker. But you put out a bunch and then we take them. And then that's it. Yeah. Did you have any other questions? Okay, go. Yeah. So we come to you. We collect from homes, small businesses, restaurants. We do a bunch of school cafeterias. I see their lunch trays all the time. Any sort of care facilities. This is our nice little wheel or cycle, something we try and work on with pretty much every aspect of our work is producing compost that can then be returned to local farms that'll grow the food that people then eat, and then we get their waste, and we just keep trying to make a stronger and stronger cycle.
Are you in the schools in Framingham?
I believe we're in. He's asking if we're in the schools in Framingham. I believe we are. No, we're not in. She knows.
We are going, I'm sorry, we'll get to that question, but let's pause on questions and have Katie go through, and hopefully many of your questions will be answered. Thank you.
I know that we get a bunch of lunch trays. Sometimes I don't know which schools they come from. Our collections are organized by a different part of the company. I know the compost dump side. So I get it, and then I make it into dirt, and then we send it back out. That is a lot bigger. But what the top said is like we help with compliance with the commercial food material disposal ban, which is mentioned earlier about any business that produces over a half ton, which is 1,000 pounds of organic waste, has to be composted. That's compliance through I believe I wrote it down, as like the DEP. Right now, there's not really an enforcing body. Basically, like the punishment is you, in theory, get shut down until you're in compliance, but big roadblocks we're running into is just where to put all the compost, which will come up in a later slide, but we have a lot of food waste. We have a lot of organic waste in our state that could be getting diverted. There's a lot of desire to do that, but it takes land to compost things, and it's very hard to get land to compost things specifically. A lot of NIMBY attitude about composting. For what we take, we have some fun little charts. This honestly doesn't come close to everything that we take. Things that you would not normally put into your home bin, like bones and meat and dairy, throw it at us. We'll take it. We have super large windrows that heat up. We roll them and manage them. Like, we are commercial composting facilities, so we can take things that you wouldn't put in your home bin. We do have a decent list of things we don't take, but there are things that make a lot of sense. Like, we don't take anything that could be a biohazard. So human waste, pet waste. Like, we don't do the compostable diapers. We don't take your compostable doggy bags. with regards to bioplastics, and a big thing that we get hung up on is paper and cardboard. I'm sure some of y'all have seen in the news in the past year, PFAS. A lot of paper products, especially ones that are rated for holding hot liquids or foods, or if they look shiny, that has a chemical in it that doesn't go away and it bioaccumulates. So we do not accept those because it stays in your compost, and it, like I said, it builds up, it stores in fat and just never goes away. It's seeing increasing. It's like kind of like lead, how like when we discovered lead was bad for you, the levels kept dropping for what was the acceptable exposure level. PFAS are kind of going the same route. We do have a really handy way of, like a very shorthand way of letting you know if something can be composted. We go through third-party certifiers. So like if it's been BPI certified or the TUV, they have confirmed that it doesn't just break down into smaller pieces, like disintegrate. It does actually decompose, which is a really big issue with what is on the market. There's a lot of greenwashing. There's a lot of stuff with kind of vague names, like or it'll just sometimes literally just be the color green, and customers will, because it's being marketed to them like that, like we'll end up with a bunch of bags that are green, but they're not bio bags, and they don't ever break down, and they ended up getting picked out and thrown away. But yeah, these are our bins. If you ever see them around, we offer a couple sizes of bins for everything from a 4-gallon bucket for if you have just a small household, single person, an apartment, don't have a place to put a bin. These are our 13 gallons. For commercial, we have up to 60-gallon bins, so like you can fill it a good bit. Ooh, that's not the right button. This is a cool drone shot of our site in Groton, but it shows you basically what our sites look like. They have a really nice indoor processing at the initial stage. Mine is just outdoors, and same with our current Manchester by the Sea site. But basically the trucks dump into that building, it gets ground up, gets mixed, and then they have a pad that like drains all the leachate and puts it into a tank, which is really cool. It's a step that we're taking for trying to design sites where we can be closer to urban centers, because odor can be an issue if there's leachate. So we're trying to figure out how to build our composting facilities to not have to be like way out in the country or far away, because cost of trucking materials is high. That makes the service high. And again, it makes it difficult for us to find space. It's the same with most composting companies. There are some that truck things literally to Pennsylvania from Massachusetts because of the inability to find space to do what we need to do. So it's something that we're, as a company, working really hard on. Our new site that they are currently building in Manchester by the Sea is taking this to the next level, where it's going to be a lot of indoor processing. So it's pretty cool. Really, really shooting for not just being able to increase the volume of product we take, but shortening the travel time so that there's less emissions in general, and then it all ends up costing less as well. So good on all fronts. That says no notes. Pretty sure that was, ooh, no, I had more slides. Can I do internet?
You didn't have more slides, did you?
Yeah, I did. I have them on my phone. Let me look really quick, and I can.
Yeah, here, we got a, what kind of phone is it?
No, Android.
While you
Yes.
work on that, I'll
Oh.
answer a few questions.
There we go.
All right. Sorry for the technical pause. While we're working out the technical details, I can answer a few questions that I heard here. One was, do we have some sort of a drop-off site at Eastleigh Farms where Black Earth Compost is located, or at our DPW? No, we do not currently. That is something I presume the Mayor's Composting Advisory Committee will take a look at. Another question was whether composting is at our schools. And I'm really excited that we have our first cafeteria composting pilot launching this fall at Charlotte Dunning Elementary School. So they are gonna test it out and see what works and what doesn't work before we expand to hopefully expand to other schools. So really excited the public schools are stepping up to test that. I also will say that the food services has now stopped purchasing any styrofoam trays, and they now they purchase non-styrofoam trays. So to move things along in sustainability. And do we have a?
She's emailing it, but I can also answer your questions
Yeah,
in the interim.
absolutely.
You sounded like you were on
What's your contamination rate? You have 300 customers now in Framingham.
have you
You
guys
have
just step
some
to the middle
track
for me
record of
while I just get it launched.
how much is being picked up. Do you find that with these paid customers, of which we are one, the material is really great material? It's not contaminated with chemicals or stuff that shouldn't be in there. Do you find that to be true with a small group of Framingham paid subscribers versus free users, wherever they may be in your
So the
company?
who's that? Is this still working?
It's off. Green means on. Yeah, there you go.
Woo. Okay, sorry. So the question was asking about levels of contamination, if there's a difference between paying customers versus free customers. We don't actually have free customers. There are customers who are working through different municipalities where the city facilitates in a different capacity, but all of the product that we get from curbside collection is covered in some capacity. Contamination rates really depend on, I think, people's mood more than anything else. We do a lot of, we do waste audits on a weekly and monthly basis at varying depths. So like some Thursdays, it'll be great. I'll have no plastics, no rubber gloves, everybody will be on it. And then like some Thursdays, I'm just picking Thursday at random. Some Thursdays it'll be like everybody and their mom threw out all their plastic cutlery. Which, to be fair, there is a lot of, specifically with plastic cutlery, some will be, like if you have forks, spoons, and knives, say forks and spoons will be compostable at a restaurant, and then the knife that is, available with the other two won't actually end up being compostable. So our customers might not actually know unless they've studied their plastic cutlery to find out which things they can toss and which they can't. But overall, between our drivers, between the education that we'll check in with customers if we're seeing a consistently high rate of a specific contamination on a specific day from a route, we can kind of zero in on where that might be coming from and just send a general notice of, hey, just a reminder, these things are not something we can take. And overall, our customers really tighten up. Biggest of...
We're paying good money for our service.
Yeah,
So
no, we appreciate.
it's in our best interest that we,
Yeah, that you don't get it rejected. Yeah, for sure. Because
that's the whole point of that.
we will reject bins if they have a lot of glass bottles or something like that in it, because it's not only a contamination in terms of something we can't compost, but the way that we deal with contamination at our sites is we hire people to be pickers. So once piles have made it through the composting process, because we don't want people in fresh piles, right before we screen, they're going in by hand and removing people's plastics and glass and things like that. So it's a major cost. It's something that we obviously do for a lot of reasons, but the less contamination that gets into the waste stream from the start, the better. A major offender are produce stickers. That is a huge, huge thing, and you'll see that even in the finished product because they're so small. They go, like, pickers can't pick them, and they go through our screener. So that's a thing that, like, we don't really need our produce stickers. There's a lot of other parts of our, like, existing system where, like, there's product numbers at the register. If you're a produce buyer, you're getting those numbers in whole different ways. Frequently, you're actually putting stickers on the fruit. So it's a kind of obsolete piece of our production stream that, like, if we got rid of that, that'd be one of our huge contaminants, just like gone. Oh, I got a thumbs up. We are back. I just turned this off. Okay. Does that answer? Okay. I got this one back. It sounds better. Yeah, contamination is a really big thing. And we look also not just at the plastic contamination, but we don't take grass clippings. And I have to be really cautious with even animal bedding, like horse bedding and farm bedding, because there's a really high rate of herbicides. Especially, I mean, lawn clippings, straightforward. Anybody who gets their lawn treated, like, there's a reason they put signs like "Don't walk on the grass" because it's a poison. One that kind of catches a lot of people off guard is the horse bedding, because there's a lot of hay that is also in fields that are being sprayed. So that passes through the whole system, whether it's just hay dropped in the bedding or even in their manure itself that accumulates. And then you get compost that has herbicide in it, and all your plants are dying because it's still hanging in there. And there are so many, and they're ever changing. Like, trying to chase down which specific herbicides might be present is not something we can reasonably do. So we just have that blanket ban. We do batch trials. So each pile, before we screen it, we run a little, like, seedling sample to look for signs specifically of herbicide presence. It's like if anybody starts looking unhappy, it's like, all right, pull that, and we can look deeper into, like, what could be making these seedlings unhappy. But that's a way that we work towards preventing, like, the contaminants that we can't put eyeballs on. Other things that we can test for, like the PFAS and heavy metals and things like that, we do regular, like, lab tests for.
Do you have your own lab, or you ship that?
We don't. We send it to University of Maine. As far as my understanding is, they're one of the only ones that do specifically compost testing. What's the school in the college here? No, in Massachusetts. I don't remember. More clues. It's an agricultural. I'm from Texas. I did not grow up here. It's a college that does a lot of agricultural testing. They do soil testing. They don't do compost testing anymore. So we have to send it all the way to Maine. But yes, I think we have our slides again. There we go. This is my site. That's a pile of ready to be screened compost, looking nice and shiny. But each of our sites operates a little bit differently for a couple different reasons. We're each on different properties. We're each in different proximities. We're different microclimates. We have a bunch of different access to our additive carbon. Like, I get leaves from the city of Framingham and the city of Marlborough when they do their curbside collection. I get it all in the month of November for my entire season. So I have a great supply of carbon. Other sites have to track down things and have a different route. So just on that, like, as a little example, we manage things differently. Our other goal with having the sites be different is, again, trying to develop models that can be plugged into a bunch of different settings. So, like, mine is the open air, bare bones. Like, we are off grid. I literally have solar panels, and I use rain barrels for water. So, like, we can be super off grid. We have some that are plugged in, just trying to make composting facilities that can be versatile to fit as many different needs as possible. Like at my site, like what I was just talking about, we try and adapt. I use goats at my site to manage weeds because anything growing on the perimeter of our site that produces weeds has a chance of getting in finished compost. And instead of man hours and resources to like mow and weed whack and stuff, I got these 3, and you can see Lamb Chop here. She eats good, so they help a lot. They defy fencing, so it's a little less structured than I would like it to be. They're too tiny for the electric fence to conduct electricity through them to actually give them a shock. Like if I hold it, I get zapped, but they're so small, they don't feel it. So they're pretty good. They come when I call them, so they do a good job. But just like a little example, like each of the sites has its own thing where we're all working to try and minimize input to make it a more efficient. And, you know, we are a company about being sustainable, so what's more sustainable for everything plus your mood than little fat baby goats? Lamb Chop's my favorite goat. I love her. So we take our compost into a couple different directions. You can buy just straight compost. We do soil blends. We have for raised beds, you can find our bagged potting soil in a lot of different places. If you're a subscribing customer, you get a bag each year. We even do really finely screened material for some of our partner lawn care companies to use as the lawn treatment, trying to get lawn care companies to move away from the herbicides and the synthetic fertilizers. So in theory, we can, like, not in theory, but in action, actually, if you're one of our green lawn care partners, we can take your grass clippings because you didn't put herbicides on it. So if we can increase the number of lawn care companies that are taking our product to apply to their thing, then we can take their grass. That's another loop closed because they're just getting their clippings back in compost form. And then their kids can play on their grass, which seems important. These are my nasturtiums. They went wild this year. This is my parking lot. That's Leaf Mountain in the far back right. That's all the leaves from Framingham and Marlborough. It was like literally 40 feet tall by 300 foot long, lovely stack. So thank y'all. So things that we do to continue closing that loop is we send out, whether at a discount or a donation, whether it's the raised beds or the soil or the labor. We work with community farms. We work a lot promoting school gardens. Just trying to continue to put the food back into the ground where it came from, to grow more food, to do the thing, to do the loop. Education is obviously what's most crucial for continuing to develop this, like both on our end for what makes sense for customers and how it works into y'all's regular schedule and y'all's lives and expectations, as well as the reality of how compost is made and what we can actually accommodate and what's needed. Because by knowing those two things, that's how we'll be able to make it more accessible and be able to hopefully get more land to compost on so we can take more organic waste out of the currently polluting waste stream. I'm ready for questions.
Are you geared up enough to take a city of size of Framingham or Sherburne or anywhere? Can you take 10,000 customers, 20,000 customers?
The question is if we are geared up to take entire cities, 10,000, 100,000, all of the thousands. And in theory, yes, if we get more land. Like land-based. Like our bottleneck.
Boston just rolled out a composting program.
So he was saying, he just mentioned Boston rolled out one, which is great. There's interesting to see a lot of, I don't know specifically where Boston's organic waste is going. There's work with digesters, so not all organic waste is being turned into compost. Some of it's being used to, like I'm sure you've seen the big barrels I think the Whole Foods in Shrewsbury does digesters, in theory, to produce electricity. I don't know enough about that to say anything other than I like compost over digesters, but it's still food waste diverted, which is better. It's cool. It's all good. Keep it rolling. Yes.
So Eastlake Farms, Groton, Manchester by the Sea. I mean, Manchester by the Sea is a very fluid place. So I'm just wondering, there's like this NIMBYism, but clearly is it more just like a stigma? Because, I mean, it seems like Eastlake Farm is probably, there was a little kiddie festival there.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I'll repeat the question. But he was asking he was mentioning the sites that we currently have and saying they're fairly fluid places, referencing that it doesn't seem like our immediate neighbors have issues with us, and wondering if our difficulty getting land is NIMBYism or stigma. And first answer is that's the same thing. NIMBYism is typically stigma. And with us specifically, with composting, I'd say it's largely stigma, like the assumption of smell, the assumption of pests, noise, but those are all things that, if managed properly, we can address. Like for us, our immediate neighbors, because I have Callahan State Park, and I've got a neighborhood, and I've got farm where they do trail rides or hay rides literally through my parking lot. So smell is a huge thing to control. And that's usually the biggest, like, oh, I don't want that we get from people who might be in proximity to us. Things that we do to accommodate that is like we watch the wind. If the wind is going to be blowing towards anybody that it might bother, we don't turn our piles. It makes it really complicated in terms of scheduling to manage things, but that's something we do, controlling standing water in the different forms. But yeah, mostly just, NIMBY in my mind is stigma, where it's just people that have an idea of like, I don't want this thing, whether it's real or not. And I don't feel like educating myself on the benefits of it or the reality of these issues. I don't want it, regardless of the good. But it's fine if it's over there where I don't have to see it, like solar fields, out of sight, out of mind. I feel like I'm promoting something good without having to give up what I perceive as my good. Now you know how I feel about that. Yes, sir.
Do you have to go through a permitting process?
Yes. Asking if and any compost site needs a permitting process. You go through the DEP. There are different levels of permitting depending on what it is you'll be processing. So like, we don't take human waste, we don't take animal waste, we don't take dead animals because our permit does not allow for that. That is a whole different processing. Those are biohazards. You basically need a septic tank and like a hard surface and like a bunch of other training and safety and limiting exposure. So yes, there is certification. We get inspected. DEP comes and like checks my site, checks the water that flows off of it for nitrogen levels and silt and things like that.
So all the neighbors were notified via mail that you guys were going to move in? I didn't hear anything about it.
I don't know that part.
Oh
yeah, he was asking.
Heard anything about it.
Sure. He was asking what the notification process would be like for people abutting or in the immediately surrounding area of a facility. I honestly don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I assume through the permitting process that's a consideration that the state takes into account, is like more the physical impact of abutting people. And then it's on our end to make sure that if we're doing it right, they don't notice us. Not because we're hiding, but like we want them to be happy we're there. So if you didn't get a notice, then I'm assuming no, but I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned in passing standing water.
Yes.
It made me think about mosquitoes.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what you do about pest control, not only insect, but I assume you have other critters that are interested.
She was asking initially, because I mentioned standing water and that brought up the idea of mosquitoes, and from there, mosquitoes, but also other pests and issues we have with those. And short answer is, if we're doing it right, we don't have those issues. At my site, standing water is managed by working on water flow. I have a swale water goes into. We have silt weirs that, work to control sediment, work for things to filtrate. I use a lot of wood chips as a ground filtration. By turning our piles regularly, by mixing them properly with our carbon material, that cuts down on exposure of things that are tempting to rodents. One of my biggest scavengers is actually eagles. I have a family of bald eagles that get real fat off my stuff. They're real happy about it. I honestly, at my site in particular, I can't speak to the other sites because I don't ever leave mine, but we don't really have a problem. The only place mice ever hang out is in my tarps.
Well, I'm thinking not only of rodents, but there are other scavengers if you're getting things like bones and that kind of thing.
Again, it goes to, or she was saying, thinking of other scavengers because of our bones and meat. The same reason that we can process the bones and meat versus what you would process in a home bin is that it heats up really quick, it decomposes really quick. Maybe a little graphic, but I can and have taken farm dead stock, say a 14-month-old cow. It's gone in 3 weeks. It's down to just bone and some squishy stuff, and then because it's fresh bone, it's usually gone except for a femur and ribs by 8 months. It goes really quick. It's buried in a deep hot pile. We use a lot of leaves to cover and incorporate for a variety of reasons, but it really does. At my site in particular, I used to run a farm, and I had my livestock guard dogs that used to keep coyotes and things at bay. Now they work for me at my site. They do a really good job patrolling, and every now and then I'd have a coyote, because coyotes love trash. We are a buffet for them. Coyotes aren't going to go for your dog if they can eat your trash. Coyotes are very chill. I'll put that out there. Yeah, every now and then they would drag a bag full of stuff off, to the back end of the site and just cherry pick through it. My dogs kept that at bay. They're pretty happy with that. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever do tours?
Do I ever do tours? Yes. She came to my site. We scheduled them in advance. I try to avoid them in the spring. That was a lesson I learned this year. Spring is our busy season. It's also very muddy because it's spring. So for everybody,
Summer must have been a joy.
the summer was really wet, but it was better than last summer where we were just sandblasted every day because it was so dry. Moisture is incredibly important for compost to work. And when it doesn't rain, you're either having to use a water truck to water your piles down, or I was having to open up older piles and tuck fresh material in just to hydrate them, which then basically resets the biological clock on those piles because you've just put new stuff in there. So it made getting caught up very complicated. I like the rain. It's very helpful. Yes, sir.
How many people do you have total on site?
How many people do I have total on site? Right now, I have me and a new hire, which is exciting. What's that?
I said 3 goats and how many dogs?
And 3 goats and 1 dog, and about to be 2. I got another dog to the brother of my last dog. So they're going to be doing the round soon. But yeah, and then I have a very part-time array of people who come in and pick plastic. I try to make that position really flexible because it's not one that people can really handle doing full-time, and I don't blame them. So try and be incredibly flexible with that position.
So it's the driver that I see every Friday that comes to my house, that's your...
Oh, drivers are separate. I have 5 trucks at my site. Drivers are run through the collection side. They basically park at my site and they dump at my site, and I make sure they have their supplies. But They are scheduled through other places and they can be based at other sites and rotate. So usually I have 5 trucks at my site on any given day.
So 5 days a week, you run out 5 trucks?
6.
6 days a week?
Yeah.
5 trucks.
6 days a week, I'm there to cover up y'all's
Now,
compost.
your compost, is that really high in nitrogen by any chance?
Asking if our compost is high in nitrogen, it is a good amount of nitrogen. It's something that is actually on our website. I don't know the numbers offhand, but we do get it tested every single year for a full panel, not just of NPK, but all of the other magnesium, phosphorus, all the stuff is in the panel, and it's by site as well. So you can look specifically at the soil you got from where it came from.
Should you notify somebody if you're not going to be at home for a week?
Yes, he was asking if you should notify somebody if you're not home a week. If you are not going to be putting stuff out, let collections know so they don't expect to run by your house. And
Put that on the website?
yes, yeah, we have a whole collections page. Yes, ma'am.
What geographic area do your 5 trucks cover?
Geographic area my 5 trucks cover. If you don't mind, I'm gonna look at my phone because we have the schedule and I can read them off. It does fluctuate. Right now I've minimized how many trucks are coming to my site because we had some groundwork done, which is really exciting. And then I took a vacation. So I had to lessen the amount of material coming to the site. Who am I looking up? Colin is our schedule person, and he does a very complicated schedule every week. So say on Tuesday, I had Concord, Roslindale, Newton, Natick, Sharon and Canton, get South Waltham, I get Holliston, Hopkinton, Westboro, Belmont, Arlington, Hudson, Marlboro, Ashland, Dedham, Norwood, Westwood, some repeats of those days. And that's like the slightly reduced delivery to my site.
And they all dump it easily?
Yes, yeah. I get about 10 tons of compost material a
Do you
day.
have an idea how many customers you have in that?
I have no idea. Actually, that might actually be on the route because it's how many stops they have. So, oh, he was asking if I have any idea how many routes or how many customers are in that base. While I look up, she's going to jump in.
I have a resident to speak to this. Is it good? Okay, we're gonna come back to that question in a minute. I have a resident here to speak to their experiences with Black Earth Compost as a resident, just starting up, seeing what it's like. Is it good, bad, pain points? So please come on up, Karen. This is Karen Saxon, and she lives in Framingham, and I'll let you tell your story.
Sure. Hi. Yeah, so I'm a Framingham resident. I just started with the Black Earth composting 3 months ago, maybe. Amy reached out to me because I had an 8th grader at Walsh, and so we were looking to partner with students and families through the schools. And so I was on kind of the committee to bring it to students through the schools, and I became one of the residents to start the composting. So that's kind of how I got started. I had seen stuff about it, but I hadn't really looked into it. So it was really nice to start that partnership. So I just learned more about it. So I've been doing it for about 2 months, and it's been super easy. It's much easier than I thought it was going to be. When we look at the list of things that are compostable, it was more than I thought, and so it's just much easier than I thought it would be. It's also we were also a little worried about like pests and stuff like that. I have a family in the Chicago area who their suburb actually it's required there, like they have to do it. Anyway, but I was asking my sister-in-law about it, and I was like, oh, and so what's it like, this and that? And then my brother said something like, oh, and don't, but the bugs. And I was like, oh, okay. But we have had no extra insects, bugs, rodents, any scavengers. So I have a little bin on my counter in the kitchen, and then we have have the bigger bin in the garage. So I have kind of two like areas, and in either place there hasn't been an uptick in any and there's I mean, we're not bothered by any smell. So like those were the biggest probably concerns I had, was smell and pests and other things, and that hasn't materialized at all. And again, would it be difficult? But it's really super easy. It's just another bin to throw something in besides our trash and our recycling. One of the biggest things that we are putting in, because we do recycle, one of the big things like paper towels, and we have a disposal, so we would put a lot of food scraps in there, but the big things the bigger parts of vegetables, stuff like that I wouldn't put in the disposal, that I can put in the compost bin, is saving us a bunch of trash. So it's really been super much easier and super easy and great experience so far. The pickups have been reliable, and we do a weekly right now. So we take the bin out every Friday, and it's picked up, and it's been pretty easy. So
It's good to
I
hear.
think that's about it. Yeah.
Questions for Karen in the room, or any questions online for Karen? No, okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Do you close the lid on your bin? I'm trying
Yes.
trying to think of ways to make sure you don't get pests.
Yes.
Close
Yep.
the lid.
Yep. Both. Yeah. So our bin in the kitchen has a lid
Yeah.
that we keep on, and the lid is closed in the garage. Yep.
Yeah, that's a big thing. 'Cause
Mhm.
if you close it, it goes a long
Yep.
way. It goes long.
Yeah. What else?
The bio bags,
Mhm.
keeping the bins clean. How's it been your experience keeping the bins from? I'm thinking of the
Yeah. Yeah.
What has your experience been in terms of, does the bin stay clean? Do you feel like you need to clean it often? Are you lining it with the bio bags, or using?
Can I give you this?
Oh, hello.
Yeah, so the question is about the bags. So we have, right now, we are using the bio bags that have been provided to us by Black Earth. And in both we have the small ones and the big one. I think I've only had to clean out the bin once, the big one once, and the small one twice. So just once it leaked out, but again, in the 2 months, so 6 to 8 times or whatever that we've done it, that we've had the bag, I've only cleaned out the bin once or twice. So the bags are great too. They're very durable, so they keep everything in for the most part. Like I said, just once did we have to clean it. So.
Yeah, I'm always curious what strategies customers are using to, how they're following it when they do have good results, because I want to make sure we can replicate that.
Yeah, and generally what we've been doing is with the little bin and bag in the kitchen, I kind of wrap that up and then put the whole bag into the.
I get a lot of larger bags of smaller containers, and you can see they just boop it up and.
Right, so instead of
it.
having just the bin in the kitchen and just putting everything in there and then putting it in,
Yeah.
that helps. We don't have to clean the bin in the kitchen. And again, I think it's probably less attractive to
Goes a long way. Yeah.
to do that. So
Cool. Thank you. We'll just do.
In the wintertime, when it's -20 out, there's not a whole lot of heat generated, I would assume, from inside the rows of food scraps.
Can you tell I'm excited to answer your question?
Go.
He was saying in the wintertime, he was assuming there's not a lot of heat generated, and there is. If I'm doing it right, my piles are staying hot because the heat comes from the microbiology in the pile. So if it's well fed, if it has air, if it has water, it's an aerobic decomposition. It's not anaerobic. So that's the importance of the leaves and stuff, to get the air but they generate their own heat. They steam huge. It's actually sometimes annoying because you'll take a scoop when you're turning, and then you have to wait for 5 minutes for the steam cloud to settle because it's so thick you can't see anything. But that tells you, you go in there and it's just, all my rows are smoking, and the birds like it a lot. I get a lot of birds in the winter that just settle on my piles for warmth, and then they just conveniently eat the bugs. Maybe that's actually a part of pest control. A natural integrated, I got an IPM going. But yeah, no, they generate their own heat. It's hot. He said that's cool, and I made a bad joke. So. No, yeah, no, it's really neat. It's really neat. They do. It's something we do on a weekly basis. Also, is take pile temperatures, go along, take at least 5 temps for the length of a pile, average it. It's how I can make sure that they are staying at the right temperature. It's also how I can fine tune the way that I'm managing the piles, whether it's the carbon amount I'm putting in it, what type of carbon. Temperature is actually really important. So it's pretty cool, all that you can learn from it. But they do stay hot. And in the winter, if you have bins that you would normally line with paper bags in the summer, which is great, we found the bio bags don't freeze to the bins in the same way. So if you are putting bins out and it's wicked cold, that keeps it from freezing. So that's one way that we keep on going through the winter, is figuring out how to work around the freeze.
You said wicked cold, just like a native.
I thought the same thing. She pointed out that I said wicked cold, and I almost interrupted myself to be like, see, I've lived here for 10 years. It's enough. Some of it's leaking in. It's just wicked so far.
How hot, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
How hot do the piles actually get?
She was asking how hot the piles actually get. Great question. Thank you. They should be, on average, 120. They can get up to 180 before it's actually a problem, because if it's higher and it's in the 200s, I assume it's gone anaerobic, which I don't want. Because that, for a couple of reasons, but in the short term, it means it stinks really bad, and it means I'm not managing it right. But yeah, they get hot, which is why our compost process is safe for things like meat and taking stuff that might survive through the low temperatures of a house kept pile. Because it's high temperatures for many, many months, most stuff gets killed off. Like I said, we are not allowed to take dead animals on a large scale. Like we're certified to take dead stock from the farm, but especially on large scale, like Australia has been doing it a lot, animals that die from viruses, those piles kill that. There's very few that survive the whole process. It's a really great, effective way to deal with things that incineration might be an issue for. So that's cool. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. I'll get you.
I'm seeing that no biodegradable packing peanuts. But there's compostable tableware that's okay. I thought those things were made of a similar kind of product, like a corn-based material.
She was asking about the no biodegradable packing peanuts versus the accepted bioplastics. I don't know specifically about the packaging peanuts, but the things that we accept are things that have gone through the third party confirming it does actually decompose without any residuals as well. So again, I don't know specifically about the peanuts because I've seen them melt too, but
I just was curious.
yeah, no, it's good. It'd be.
There's a lot of products that are made with like corn byproducts.
I get these forks that show up at the end of my process that are, I looked them up because they're stamped biodegradable and they're called corn, like with a Q. And they are like, even regular plastic ends up kind of shrinky dinked through the heat of the piles, and these things are resilient. And sometimes like we'll get wood, like chopsticks will go through a few times. Usually the lunch trays go through a few times, more because they're like stacked in a brick than that they're cardboard. But eventually they break down. Those corn forks, they are good to go. So like if something's not BPI certified, just blanket, we don't take it. But a good thing, a rule of thumb is like check the product. If it can withstand high heats, it's not something that's going to break down. Like something has been plasticized to a point in that product where it's no longer an organic material. Like it is just a regular plastic now. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of partnerships does Black Earth have with municipalities, if any?
She's asking what kind of partnerships does Black Earth have with municipalities, if any. it's not my side, but I know that I can't speak to which specific municipalities it is, but I know the ranges are that some municipalities, we will provide the bins, and then the city offers that part, like the startup kit, to residents. Some go all the way to it being rolled into the regular like waste and water bill collection. So that's like the range. I don't know specifically which ones are which. If you do have specific questions, I know who in our company can answer them. Justin, yes, so you already know. Justin Sandler, send him your emails. Yes, sir.
I was just
Oh.
going to add,
Yeah.
I lived in Westboro for 8 years.
Yeah.
And the way that composting got through into the municipality was through the schools.
So he said that he lived in Westboro for 8 years, and the way that the composting got into the municipality was through the schools, which makes a lot of sense.
And that's
High level of exposure rate.
pattern that
Yeah.
started at elementary school. They did a pilot, and then
Yeah.
it grew from there.
He's saying that it started a pilot at elementary school and the pilot, and it grew from there. And I think it's great on multiple levels because one, you're getting exposure because all of those kids have parents and neighbors. And then we're also starting at an early level, like the way that my generation had recycling like beaten into us, and now look where we are with that. But composting is at least a concrete, it's dirt now. It's really great. And it starts at that, and then we have the product to get the kids into school gardening. And so it's a much more multifaceted than just waste management. You had another question? Or, yes, ma'am. Last one.
So did you say earlier that you have an excess of finished product? And if so, like what would happen if all of Framingham signed up? Like what would you do with all the compost?
She was asking if we have an excess of finished product, and then if we did, what would we do with it? We don't. We actually sell out constantly, which is cool. It's great. If we had all of Framingham, I'm really curious at what point we would hit saturation. I don't, because of, the ripple effect of if we had more customers, more space and all that, like the same way that we lower prices within regions, the higher density we have customers, I'm assuming our overall cost would lower and then make it more accessible, and we just keep selling it. And keep being able to make it available at lower cost, which is the goal, because it should be. If we had a surplus, I feel like we'd just probably do farms so they can like spread it as compost in their fields and top dress, because that is most commonly when we do discounts or lower costs, it's to farms that are going to be doing field dressing, or if they're doing school gardens and community gardens. So that would be, I think, the first option for getting rid of the desired excess of compost. That would be such a great problem. But yeah, thank you guys. This was fun. I didn't drink a lot of coffee. You're good.
All right, I'll wrap us up. Thank you, Katie. Really awesome presentation.
Thanks for asking questions.
Yeah, we learned a ton from all the questions from you. Yeah. So just, I'm not going to deal with the technical here, but verbal reminder, we have 2 more events coming up in the series. There is one Thursday, October 12th, thank you, on the city's climate action plan. So the city is in the process of creating its first climate action plan. That session will be an overview of what's going on. And there should be a if you're interested in that, you can go online, sign up for updates, etc. The second one in the series is for Thursday, December 14th on bicycling in Framingham and where it's going. So both of them will be great, and thank you all for your participation. Yay.
That's fun. Thank you guys.
No, there's 9 of us. 9 of us total.
No, it's great. It's very cool to have real people. No, it's fine.